Hi, my name is Felisa Tibbitts, and I'm Chair of Human Rights Education at Utrecht University in the Netherlands. And I'd like to share with you today the ladder of participation, a conceptual presentation of the different ways and degrees to which children can be participating in the schooling setting, which is more or less child-centered. The image that you're seeing now is the one that was also assigned as part of this module. It's called the Ladder of Participation. It was developed by Roger Hart many, many years ago and published by UNICEF. And you can still find this online. This image is very easy to find. Also, there have been many articles written that elaborate on the meaning of each of these rungs. So here we have the 8 rungs leading from 1 being one of the non-participatory examples of the ways in which children can appear to be participating in school life, but in fact, if they are, it's with very little agency, all the way up to rung number 8, where we have child-initiated shared decisions with adults. I want to go through each of these rungs with you as a kind of mental exercise to ensure that you get the general message about this ladder of participation. And I also want to acknowledge that, of course, when children are younger, one has to take into account the level of development too, in terms of giving them agency and supporting their making decisions. But again, if one is committed to having more rather than less children's participation, and if you're dedicated to it being learner-directed as much as possible, then we provide that scaffolding for our younger students, even when they may not have so much familiarity with decision-making, if you will, in the classroom. So the first 3 categories, which Roger Hart designated as non-participatory, are manipulation, decoration, and tokenism. And I'm almost certain that each of us had an experience like this when we were kids in school, especially when we're in primary school or younger, where adults really organize many activities. And again, this is not with bad intentions at all. This is the point of identifying these categories as non-participatory is to raise our awareness as educators that it's a very limited form of participation, if you will. You can see the descriptions here. That these various, like manipulation, because children have really no understanding of what they're being engaged in the school or classroom. Decoration is when students are put on display. They may be asked to do a performance, again, but they don't understand the meaning or intent of their involvement. So they're participating, but without, full consciousness, and certainly no degree of choice. And finally, tokenism, the children are given a bit of voice, but essentially don't have much power or not meaningful influence when it comes to whatever event they're being involved in. So it's not an opportunity for them to identify what they think or to formulate opinions. So these all represent a way of involving students that is counter to the idea of learner-centered activities or providing young people with an opportunity through this opportunity to have agency to influence what's happening. Now, 4, 5, and 6 is still, so it's moving up the ladder, and it's included in Roger Hart's participatory cluster. And as we see, progressively, students are moving from being informed to actually getting the opportunity to influence on what's taking place. So what's key here is that the youth, the children, they understand the intentions, they know who made the decisions and why, they have a meaningful role, and perhaps it's also voluntary, okay? And then children may even act as consultants for adults, but again, you can see it's moving towards the young person being informed, aware, voluntarily participating, and having some influence on the decisions that are made in relation to whatever event is taking place. Then we move to the highest rungs on the ladder, child-initiated and directed. And Here we have as number 8, child-initiated shared decisions with adults. I don't think it's very important that we distinguish which should be number 7 or which should be number 8. In fact, that's also true, I think, for 4, 5, and 6. But the point here is, again, to make ourselves aware that even when we get to this stage in the ladder of participation where we have youth-initiated and directed projects, there is also this option for them to be actually involving adults as partners or allies. So let me go back to the original ladder. So here I've just briefly reviewed again from the rung number 1 all the way to rung number 8, and I invite you to consider, to think back on your own experiences in schools as a child participating in events in school. To what degree you felt you could identify where in this ladder these events might fall. Again, just speaking for myself, I remember being in kindergarten and being involved in a play. I was assigned a role. I didn't get to choose the play. I had an absolutely wonderful time, and it was. I guess in some ways you could say it was decorative because it was a play that was put on for the parents. I certainly enjoyed it, but it wasn't really an opportunity for me to explore my own thinking or my own opinions. I did develop a really cool ability to do an interesting dance on stage. So again, it's not malicious that there are less participatory forms of participation, especially for little children. But remember, even with young children, there can be opportunities given them to decide. For example, in my case, we might have been asked which play we want to do. Perhaps we would have asked to play certain roles as opposed to being assigned, etc., etc. Again, from point 4 on, rung 4 moving up to 8, we have progressively increased engagement with the youth, not only them being informed, but having choices and actually cultivating their ability to know their points of view and to act on them. So basically, the participation becomes an opportunity for agency and for growth. So I hope you found this to be interesting, and I encourage you to continue to reflect on your own experiences as a young person in school and how you were involved, and to think of ways in which you can also meaningfully involve children of all ages in your own classrooms.